All right, welcome back, and this is the last one. If hopefully you've listened to all of them, you've survived all of my lectures. I know some of them have been longer, some have been really short, but we're going to wrap up with preserving biodiversity. So let's get into this one. So as I mentioned, things are changing over time. We've talked about how climate changes. We're seeing changes in temperature and CO2 levels. And, Earth has been old. She's 4.8 billion years. We've gone through ice ages. We've gone through where we're warmed up. And we're kind of seeing changes just as we have been here. Hopefully, I don't know how long you've been on this nice rock, but you might have seen changes even over your time that you've been here. Now, what happens when things change and you can't adapt? Well, what will happen is a species will go extinct. As I mentioned, I'm a big fan of the show Cosmos, and they go to the Hall of Extinction quite often. Now, over time, we have measured 5 mass extinctions over time. Boom, 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 right there. And the most recent one was about 65 million years ago. So you think about the dinosaurs, where we had that big asteroid come and pretty much wipe them all off. Now, after that, we did see a totally increase in a lot of diversity of life after that, because we had the whole world change. So we had to adapt, and then we saw where we're at right now. Now, the scary thing is we have endangered lists, and there's all methods that they go through to determine if something is endangered and all the other stuff. But we're starting to see more and more species show up on that list, and when they go extinct, it's because it hasn't been seen in so many years. So what we're seeing is that list go up like crazy, and it's kind of scary because we are been proposed that maybe we're starting to enter into the 6th mass extinction, because with the loss of biodiversity, we lose all these species, or the way we're destroying parts of the environment, maybe we can't repair it and come back, and we're about to enter into another mass extinction event. So the actual rate might be off. We might not be entering it, but we might be overreacting, which kind of happens at times. We saw that happen this whole year with COVID-19. I do think the care needs to be had, but sometimes we might overreact a little bit, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Now, there are different things that they use to help measure extinction. They actually talk about the background rate, which is the extinction rate over the million of species per year. Right now, we're at these current numbers, but like I said, this is more confusing than I really want to get into. But one of the things is we have to think about the habitat, because if we are taking away the habitat that species are, we're going to be taking away the species area relationship. So if the area that we keep observing keeps getting smaller, then either the concentration is the species are going to have to occupy a smaller area, then we have competition for resources, and some are going to be dying off, and we're not getting actual numbers. So this is where we have to think about habitat loss. And I've had this right here, we keep reducing it, we're going to keep reducing the number of species. So if we have 90% habitat loss, we're going to lose about 50% of the species in that area for sure. So what can we do to change? Well, we have to making changes. We have to change human behavior. One way is through legislation. These are just a few that are mentioned in the book, and I'm pretty sure there's stuff changing all the time. It just depends which administration's in charge, if they're pro environment, against the environment, want to drill everywhere. I don't care where you fall on the spectrum, but I do think we need to make sure we save what we can, because I really am concerned for the future generations. So these are just a few of the legislations that have been passed in the recent years. Now, one thing is we are setting around these lands that are like these natural conservation areas, which is great. I am glad that we are doing that, because these areas, we need to protect them and prevent them from being habitats for humans. Let life be what it's supposed to. So with this one, where do we save it? Where do we even start? Because there is so much out there that we can be doing. And, you see the thing, even it's as simple as picking up some trash that you saw on a walk on the river, that's something. You started, okay? That's a little bit, that's possibly something that an organism not going to go through. Now, if we had to pick on where we're going to really focus on, I think we need to pick on these hot spots. So this is just showing you these hot spots are marked in red. This is where you have a lot of diversity in life. So really in rainforest areas. And we really need to make sure that we take care of these areas, because if we lose this, we're going to lose a lot of our biodiversity, and a lot of the different species on Earth thrive in these areas. Now, maybe we need to restore some habitat. So we might have taken and deharvested all the trees for lumber purposes, but plant them back. And when that happens, we need to restore some keystone species. We dam rivers a lot, and we don't realize the downstream effects that might have. So, but you might have to do this at a safe pace, maybe removal of some of the dams. I keep saying replanting trees. I did some service at the very beginning of the year. We actually had a day of service with all the faculty and staff, and I actually got to go work with the forestry department here in Fort Worth and plant trees. It was really fun. We have a tree farm here in Fort Worth, and they take volunteers all the time. If you're interested, I can look up the information for you. And development of parks. I'm a huge person of parks. I love to go and walk in them and all the other stuff, and I love having those natural areas. And I do appreciate how Fort Worth has so many walking areas for people. It makes you appreciate. And I love walking the Trinity Trails so much. I live right by Overton Park, and I walk that all the time. Now here's a controversial one with zoos and captive breeding. So, there are sometimes, do you let nature run its course and let species die off, or do you try to save it? I think it was the last male white rhino in the wild. He had armored guards around him all the time, because poaching is a big problem in some areas, and they want to protect them from poaching. And so is it worth doing it, or do we just let nature take that? When we put species in zoos and go through different processes of going through forced breeding, is that a good thing? I'm okay with zoos. I understand some actually go through the process of rehabilitating animals to safely introduce them back into the wild. Sometimes this is where animals can only survive. They might have something have happened to them and they can't thrive on the wild on their own, and that's maybe the best habitat for them. And it does introduce people to things they probably never would have seen on their own. But then people are like, well, they're living in captivity. Well, they know they have a guaranteed meal coming. You can be pro or against it, it's whatever, but this is one of those things, it makes you think about, okay, when do humans step in and when is it too far? So I think that's the last part of this book. I know this chapter was kind of short, but there's some review videos and credit for my slides. Thanks for listening to all this. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you enjoyed it. If you took both 1408 and 1409, I hope I made you love biology a little bit more. And I think it is time for me to take my dog to Mutts, because it is about to be 4 o'clock. That means it's about to be yappy hour. So if you're ever in the area, or if you go there, I'm on the little dog side. You know what I look like. More than welcome to come and talk to me. All right. So thanks for listening. I'll be out.